your homeboy Ice Cube.
Hey, I'm Mark Wahlberg.
It's Floyd Money Mayweather.
Hi, I'm Usain Bolt.
This big boy, one half of the mighty Outcast is Adrian Peterson.
McConaughey here.
It's T.I.P.
The boss, Ricky Rose.
This is Kevin Hart, a.k.a. Long-Faced Little Body. And right now, you're watching my favorite show. I'm talking about First Take, without Stephen A. Smith.
It's halftime on this Good Friday. Good day, people. Thank you so much for being with us. Stephen A., what are you hot on as we approach hour number 2?
Well, tomorrow marks the 70th anniversary of Jackie Robinson integrating baseball. Obviously, is a cause to celebrate, but there's something about it that's not worthy of a celebration. I'll explain it in my final take.
And on a lighter note, or is it a lighter note, Aaron Rodgers working out with a Jonas brother instead of his teammates. Big deal, second hour, First Take right now.
4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, got me.
Is it Sunday yet? Round 1, James Harden versus Russell Westbrook is box office. This season, the Rockets beat OKC in 3 of their 4 meetings, but only 1 win was by more than 3 points, which means this should be good, folks. Max, what will we learn from this matchup?
Well, everyone's focusing on Westbrook versus Harden, obviously, for good reason. We've focused on that. But I think, you know, what I think of now in terms of what we can learn, and it won't be definitive, but it'll be a new piece of evidence, is does the D'Antoni system in the playoffs, you know, it's impossible to prepare for in a one-game situation. In a one-off, those threes are falling, those bombs are falling. What can you do? They could beat any team in the world. But in a best-of-7 series, in the playoffs, is there something OKC can do, seeing it multiple times consecutively, to slow it down? Will the refs call the game differently in some way that negatively affects the Rockets? Mike D'Antoni was on Mike and Mike this morning talking about one of the things he's come to realize is that when he was coaching in the past, obviously with Phoenix and Steve Nash, he should have doubled down on shooting threes. They weren't shooting enough threes. He should have, because he saw the future and didn't embrace it to the extent that he should have. Well, he's doubled down or tripled down now, like half their shots are from 3. And we'll see the efficacy of playing that way in a best-of-7 series in a modern NBA playoffs. Is there something about that? Is it fundamentally more probabilistic and therefore not a great idea? The old expression, live by the 3, die by the 3. This will not answer it definitively, but it will certainly be a new piece of evidence because OKC is very differently constructed and plays very differently. So we'll see.
What I'm going to learn is what Russell Westbrook is going to be able to do in the postseason with this particular team. It's one thing to do what you've been doing night in and night out over the course of an 82-game schedule, back-to-back games. You're fatigued. You're going against teams who are fatigued. You're going against teams that don't necessarily have the time or the wherewithal to plan accordingly for you. Come playoff time, without the services of Kevin Durant, we're going to learn a lot about Russell Westbrook because we're going to witness what he can do with the minimal amount of help he's perceived as having. We'll find that out about him. We'll also find out something about Mike D'Antoni's system and whether or not this is going to work come playoff time. Again, for the same reasons. When teams have days to prepare for you and they lock in and play intensifies and what have you, we're going to see what both teams are made of, but primarily what the Houston Rockets are made of collectively and what Russell Westbrook is made of individually as it pertains to him having to carry the load without Kevin Durant.
Yeah, and getting back to what I mentioned about the threes, Stephen A., I think that's an ongoing, look, most people have accepted. A couple of years ago, Phil Jackson said, what did he tweet out? And he misspelled it, talking about that some team like Memphis had beaten another team that shot a lot of threes, and Phil Jackson was gloating about it because he's not a believer in shooting so many of them. And it turns out like every team in the playoffs, all of them were among the teams that shot the most threes during the regular season. And, of course, the Golden State Warriors wound up winning the whole thing. But LeBron didn't have any help in that series. And then as soon as he got some help, he beat the jump-shooting Golden State Warriors because, if you really just forget about injuries and suspensions, the shots weren't falling for them. And the playoffs are a little bit different. Of course, the Cavs also shot and hit a lot of threes and were on fire in that respect heading into the playoffs. So the fact, I think there's something about it that's fitting that Mike D'Antoni, of all people, is the coach of the Rockets and James Harden's coach. And we will see his theory tested right there in the first round against a team that doesn't shoot and hit a lot of them, against a team that's going to crash the offensive glass. And, of course, the drama between Westbrook and Harden is there. We all know that. But I think it will be an interesting test right off the bat in terms of the way the modern game is going to be played. Is it going to move increasingly toward the D'Antoni way of playing it? Likely Popovich will figure out how to do that better than anyone else. He kind of already has. Or will there be some kind of an adjustment made and some kind of normalcy brought to things, some kind of regression to the mean in terms of that style of play? I think this series will actually influence the answer to those questions.
Gotcha.
All right, we will leave it there. Coming up, is Aaron Rodgers going Hollywood? We've got reports that he's been spending a lot of time in La La Land getting facials and working out with a Jonas brother. What is going on, and is this a cause for concern with the Packers? Plus, the Greek Freak has emerged to near superstar status this season. So are the Bucs a team to fear in the playoffs? We'll tell you if they're the best lower-seeded team after the break. Draft here on First Take. Don't miss when the best NFL prospects stop by the desk. We've got D lineman Jonathan Allen, running back Dalvin Cook, and safety Jamal Adams will all pay us a visit before this month's NFL draft. So tune in all next week right here on First Take. NBA playoffs getting started tomorrow. So what are the potential upsets that we could see in the first round? Don't count on the Blazers to knock off Golden State with only a 1% chance to do the impossible. But interestingly enough, the Pacers have a 20% chance to knock off the Cavs, and the Bulls have a 28% chance to eliminate the Celtics. Stephen A., which team has the best chance for a first-round upset?
I think it's the Chicago Bulls. I think they've got the best shot. I don't think they'll beat Boston. I think Boston will win it in 7 games. I think it'll take 7 games in order for them to pull it off. But Dwayne Wade has more playoff experience by himself than the entire Boston Celtics squad this year. That is a fact. The minutes that he's logged is over 1,000 more minutes than the entire Boston Celtics roster combined in playoff competition. I think that goes a long way. I think they're playing with house money in Chicago. I think him, along with Jimmy Butler, who's a rough rider and a stud and can ball, averaging 24, 6, and 5. I think the two in the sport of basketball, if you got 2 guys that can get it done, that could bode well for you. Plus, Rondo is no scrub. He can't shoot, but he's no scrub. And he's going back to play against his old team that he inspired to a championship. So he knows what it's like. You got, first of all, you got Dwayne Wade with his championship experience. You've got Rondo with his championship experience. You've got Butler, who's got some playoff experience. And Rondo played in Boston for a year. So he knows that fan base. He knows what those hostile confines are going to be like. And he could help elevate their level of preparedness as well. I think that makes for a very, very interesting series. It's something that the Boston Celtics have better watch out for. And Isaiah Thomas is going to have to be every bit that league MVP candidate in order for them to pull out this series, because it's going to require greatness from him.
Bulls have just been a really interesting team all year. Like, how's that going to work? And then it didn't. And then it kind of did. And now they got a shot. The Bucks are another interesting choice, Stephen A., because of the Greek Freak. You know, hey, he may be the best player in that series, period, and I'm tempted to take them. I'm not going to say Utah and the Clippers because a 4-5 is, you know, barely that. So I did some digging and some thinking, Stephen A., just to shock you. Are you ready for this? Mm-hmm. The Memphis Grizzlies, I think, have the best chance to score an upset in the first round. In the first place, Mike Conley, quietly, had a career year in an excellent career. Now, he's not quite like the Michael Lewis version of Shane Battier, the statless all-star, but he's something like that and always has been. He's always been better than his kind of traditional counting numbers would have you believe. And people who watch basketball know that. Of all the non-superstars, if you're constructing a team and you wanted to take a point guard to win a championship, Mike Conley is probably your answer, and even maybe including some of the superstars. He's that excellent. I've talked to my friend Ryan Hollins, who backed up at center on that team, and asked him about Memphis, and he said the leadership of Mike Conley. You know, when they go out in the community and they're breaking ground on something, he actually gets down there with the shovel, and so everyone follows him down. It's that kind of camaraderie, that kind of leadership. They have that going for them. He's averaging 20 points a game on 40% from three, playing defense, all those things. Lamarcus Aldridge, Zach Randolph, and Marc Gasol, and all those things are the kind of guys who can give teams problems in the modern NBA because they're not used to seeing them. And in the meantime, you look at the Spurs, they've underperformed expectations at home. Yes, they've won, but they're under 500 against the Vegas spread at home. Why is that significant? Because the Vegas Sharpies, they're really gauging the public and what they think. They really have to know what that line is. They're accurate. It's tough to beat it. They know what they're talking about, in other words. And the Spurs have underperformed that at home. Pau Gasol can do things offensively, so can LaMarcus Aldridge, but neither one is going to make you forget about Tim Duncan on the defensive end. And generally, the Spurs have been streaky in-game this season. So look, they're favored, they have a better record, they play in the same conference, and the Spurs have been better all year. I get it, they're favored for a reason, and they should advance. But I think Memphis has a real chance to shock people this season right there in the first round, Stephen A. And they're actually maybe the toughest matchup for Golden State, Memphis, if they can somehow get by the Spurs, because they address the one weakness in Golden State, which is if you can take them down low, you can have some success. They don't have Bogut there anymore. So I think Memphis has a chance to do something to shock people right off the bat.
I'm not even dignifying that with a response. That's ridiculous, other than to say David Fizdale is my man. He's done an outstanding job in his first year as a head coach, former assistant in Miami. Very proud of the job that he's doing. He's going to be a really, really good coach in the NBA for years to come. But I'm not dignifying the Grizzlies being a threat to the Warriors with a response. I'm just not in the mood to tolerate that from you today. I'm just not.
In Memphis, without Tony Allen, of course, there as well. Let's leave it there, gentlemen. When we come back, Kawhi Leonard has big shoes to fill as the leader of the Spurs now that Tim Duncan's gone. So how much will the Grizzlies test them in the first round? Plus, Dirk Nowitzki announced he's coming back to the NBA next season, but one person at the desk thinks he's making a mistake. Those topics and more are coming up in Quick Takes.